Day. I am Tom Bingle, and welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. Jim King, the co-host, is right here, and is always ready to share his wisdom.
Whoa, wisdom. Wow, that's a high bar for me, Binks. But how about instead pedestrian insights? How would that
Oh,
work?
Jimmy. Oh, I know you could do better than that, Doc, especially given today's topic.
Yeah. Today we're going to break off from the actual journey to talk about a topic that anyone who travels with a friend or
Mhm.
spouse or significant other really need to grapple with if they want to stay a friend or spouse or
Mhm.
significant other. So, in other words, we're going to talk about how to make sure you enjoy yourself without driving the other person crazy. And, that's not
Yeah.
something people think
Mm-mm.
about when planning a trip, right?
Jimmy, that was certainly true in our case.
Yeah.
Funny looking back, this is key. Buds for 4 years and always there to help each other. Fun planning the trip, caught up
Yeah.
in the excitement of what was ahead.
Yep.
But maybe we thought about other types of negative situation, sickness, obviously, theft, but never thought that we would have any problems traveling together because we were such good friends. So I was kind of surprised when I sensed early on as we were on that train to Dover and then onto the ferry to Ostend and the train to Copenhagen that, Jim, I might be getting on your nerves.
Uh, Not exactly known for my poker face, am I? But but you weren't getting on my nerves, Binks. Too much.
Jimmy, so when did you first start thinking that traveling together might not be all, sunshine and rainbows, Jimmy?
Oh, well, I think we both started getting the feeling, after we left that little village in England where Rick and my
Yes.
brother and his
Yeah.
wife Cheryl lived at the time. They made all the decisions while we were there.
Hmm.
So all we had to do was
Yeah.
go along and we'd have a great
Yeah.
time, which we did. But once we were on our own, we had to make decisions about everything, where to
Yeah.
sleep,
Yeah.
which restaurants
Yeah.
for breakfast, lunch, dinner, what sites to
Yeah.
visit, how much money we wanted to spend and which train to catch. Oh my God, there were so many decisions. And we weren't very good at trusting the other person or delegating the other person, to make those decisions, right?
Doc, good point. Uh, that might have had made sense, but as I recall, we both had at least two travel guides, like folders and my favorite, Let's Go Europe.
Right.
You would do some research and suggest something, and I'd agree.
Right.
Then I would do some research and suggest something different, and you usually agree to that.
Yeah, and then you'd keep researching and change your mind about what you recommended.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. Guilty as charged, Doc. We had to make so many decisions and kept
Yeah.
going back and forth. You know me, Jimmy, curious nature, love of history. So the list of essential sites then, for me to see just kept growing and
Yeah.
growing as my indecisiveness really manifested itself. I was addicted to Let's Go Europe as it seemed. I refer to the book for nearly everything.
Yeah.
And of course, would highlight my findings to you constantly, often reading everything out loud. Do you remember that, Jim?
Oh, how could I forget those wonderful readings? Uh, yeah. I have a hazy recollection of wanting to grab that book and throw it out the window, but I
Oh,
really enjoyed listening to you.
thanks,
But
Jim.
but anyway, I think the
Hmm.
it was actually kind of funny because the itinerary
Yeah, yeah.
planned and laid out, for most cities would have taken a week instead of a day or two. We could only allot a day or two because of our Eurail pass, right? It
Yeah,
expired in two
yeah,
months.
Jimmy. Yeah, I think that's why I was frantic. We had
Mm,
originally planned on only 2 months,
right.
and so I was motivated to see absolutely as much as humanely possible.
That's true. True. Yeah. So while you were able to notice signs of strain from me, I couldn't
Yeah.
really detect any impatience, seriously, from you on. I know I have at least one or two annoying idiosyncrasies.
Jimmy, I don't know if this is what you mean, but I do remember that in contrast to my nonstop talking, you were very quiet. I
Yeah.
wanted to either discuss the day ahead or what to do next or reflect back on the day, but your thoughts seemed a million miles away.
Hmm.
Maybe because you were a writer and you were writing in your head your first international bestseller.
That's called fantasizing, thanks. That's it.
Oh, okay, okay.
But that must have been frustrating because you were always pumped up, making suggestions on what to do next and what to see.
Yeah.
And here I was staring off into space. I think we could both detect a certain level of tension rising, but neither of us really knew
Yeah,
quite what
yeah.
to do about it. We hadn't had to deal with that before.
Yeah, Jim, yeah, it was so, out of the blue,
Yeah,
well, actually, yeah, Doc, you were the one that made the suggestion that pretty much dissipated that tension. You suggested that if we both didn't want to see and do the same things, we'd split up for the day,
right.
a couple hours or maybe half a day, do what we wanted to do, then come back at a designated place and time for dinner together.
Yeah, that worked pretty well, I think. We'd usually start out together, but
Yeah.
yeah, I frankly was done after the first of, 10 or 12 castles you wanted to see.
Doc, right? And then you did what you preferred, which was interesting, Jim. This is, which was kind of wander around,
Yeah,
see how the people lived
that's
in their
true.
communities and to allow the pulse and feel for the town to reveal itself in a normal, not rush program, Tom Bingo, let's go Europe manner. And I was able to immerse myself then in the history of the place, running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah. Well, both styles, staring
Yeah.
off into space, running around, it helped at least keep our dinner conversations more lively,
Hmm.
as we reviewed, our respective days and plans for the next. So
Yeah, Jimmy,
good.
but no, this is great. It was, this was a very important point.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy, I feel that with your wanderings, okay,
Mhm.
different places, and with my plan, major sites, we both got when we came back together, we got a broader perspective of the places we visited.
Right.
And Doc, what is your perspective on this key early decision for, I love this term, independent exploration? Anything you learned from it all, Jim?
Well, I think it worked, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
in fact, it worked so well that not long after Copenhagen, we sometimes split up for days, and even meet in an entirely different city, which is kind of unusual back then. We
Well, Doc, I know the very first time that we split it was a little discomforting for me, but
yeah,
after that first time, of this mini vacation or independent exploration, the time apart allowed both of us to explore what we wanted to explore. Then we'd
right.
come together. We seem to be more at peace, Jim. That's more ready
Hmm.
to together to take on more. And I have to say that we both discovered a great deal about ourselves. Fascinating. And what we like, what we really did not like. Then be able to relay, to our travel buddy and implement the change for the better towards reaching our goal, which was, Jim, getting around, exploring the world.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it helped us avoid the annoyances that
Hmm.
might have made travel together kind of unbearable. Of course, we didn't split up every day.
Right.
In fact, I think overall we traveled more together than
Hmm.
apart. But I think the balance was key. It really helped strengthen the overall
Yeah.
experience for both of
Yes.
us. I think.
Yes.
We both came from large families. You have four brothers, right?
Yes, Jimmy, older brothers.
I have two sisters and six brothers.
Oh, God.
And by the end of our travels,
Yes.
well, during
Yes.
our travels, I came more and more to feel like you were,
Yeah.
another brother.
Yeah. The
And
same here, Doc.
brothers
Yeah.
have differences, right?
Definitely
Some
within,
even
yeah.
violent, at least in my house. But you know, I think the travel just gave us that
Yeah.
bond that helped us put aside our
Hmm.
differences at the
Yes.
moment, our differences in style,
Yeah.
and each take what we wanted from what we were doing.
Yeah, Jim, it's spot on.
Hmm.
Key lesson in life, and Jimmy, just that, yeah, we were able to make it better by separating for the both of us. And
Right.
but for me now, then working on a major undertaking, you have to cut back a little bit on your own goals, which we both did, and combine with others so that we can achieve the grander mission. Wow, after that early trial, I believe Jimmy, we did not really have any major clashes as we continued around the globe, I don't think.
Well,
I don't.
I could think of one major clash, but we'll
Oh,
we'll
okay.
save that for another video, Binks.
Okay.
So let's wrap it up. What advice would you offer to friends or couples planning to travel together longer than just a few days or a week or so?
Jimmy, after our travels together and after a career in the travel business, I really believe that a couple, before getting married should actually travel together with an open mind,
Whoa,
for
whoa.
a few
Mother
days
Church
to
wouldn't like that, but go ahead.
oh, that's true, James. With an open mind for a few days to experience just what we did. All the questions, Jimmy, all the
Hmm.
questions, all the back and forth and the growth, would be a revelation of the multiple sides of each individual. But I think a key for me, Jim, is in addition to that, is to keep your eye on the prize. I believe Martin Luther King said that. Keep your eye on the prize.
Hmm.
And we, Doc, that was very good. We always maintain that goal of backpacking Europe on our horizon, and that goal seemed to motivate us to work
Yeah,
together, as in the independent exploration decision, to achieve such a grand goal. We needed to do that. I seem to apply this approach throughout my life, and still today.
excellent.
Doc, what would be your prescription? See what I did there, Doc,
Okay.
for a successful travel venture?
Very clever. Very clever. I did catch it, Doc.
Oh, okay,
Prescription.
Jim.
Nicely done. Well, I think it's important to know before you go, like we talked earlier, we didn't really do
Yeah.
talk about this sort of thing
Yeah, we did.
because we're so excited about all the cities we're
Hmm.
going to go to. But you really need to figure out, first of all, what you as an individual want to
Yeah.
see and get out of the trip, and
Hmm.
then talk it over
Yeah.
with your traveling companion and find out what their expectations are, and do it
Hmm.
before you go.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what the other person wants, it won't matter how beautiful the city is or how breathtaking the
Yeah.
landscape is. You're going to be miserable, you
Yeah.
know. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's what I
Oh,
think.
well, Jimmy, that's on that happy note, Jim.
Miserable, right?
Yeah, where are we off to next yet, Jimmy? Where are we off to
All
next?
right. Well, we'll make the next one a little happier. We're gonna go to Scandinavia, our first city in Denmark. What
Wow,
is it?
Jimmy.
Copenhagen.
Yes, Copenhagen, the city of spires. Ooh, Jimmy. Those so I hope well, to those watching, we hope you'll join us for that. And until then,
Cheers,
cheers,
everyone.
everyone.
We were almost there that time, Binks.
Almost there, almost there.